Today, in Flex in the City, we talk to Philippe Renard, the CEO of RBC Luxembourg and the Deputy CEO of Caecis. From chemical engineer to banking CEO, we discuss how Philippe had to embrace a growth mindset, shift his thinking, and focus to successfully run a bank. All that happening right now in Flex in the City. Hello, everybody. This is Rachel Treese for Flex and the City, and I'm absolutely delighted to have Philippe Renard with me. He's the Deputy CEO of Caecis. He was formerly the CEO of RBC here in Luxembourg, and he's now commuting between the wonderful city of Paris and Luxembourg. Welcome, Philippe, to Flex and the City. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rachel. Very pleased to be with you today.
Absolutely. So our listeners, of course, the first question I always ask is for you to tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to be working in the financial services industry in Luxembourg and now in Paris, 𝗙𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗏.
Well, it's a long story, but let's try to summarize quickly for the sake of shortness. So I was graduated as an engineer in the early 90s and worked about 10 years in manufacturing industry. You see, with the helmet and the shoes and the big fumes and pipes everywhere.
Wow. So what kind of manufacturing was it, Philippe?
I'm a chemical engineer by education, so I started really in the heavy industry, producing thousands of tons of material a year, with all these big factories, what you can see on the TV, like fumes and towers and pipes in every direction.
Wow. Fantastic. And so that was in Belgium, was it?
It was, and then I moved to Luxembourg to another type of industry, but still as a research production engineer and in charge of a sub factory.
Wow, fantastic. So how did you end up in the financial services industry from that background in engineering? Fascinating.
Yeah, in the early 2000, I was in contact with a C-level from one of the large banks in Luxembourg. And the thinking of that person was that banking back offices were actually like factories. You need to look at processes, KPI, productivity, and being scalable. And so he was engaging a number of engineers to help transfer the knowledge from the manufacturing into banking. Which I believe is insightful due to the size of the back offices and the importance of it in Luxembourg.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to acknowledge that CEO because he was really thinking about diversity of thinking and bringing in diverse profiles, which is really, really interesting and really probably ahead of their time. So what is it that you think banking can learn from industry and industrial systems? What's your view on that, having experienced both?
I think banking for a long time was looking at top line only because the profitability and the margin was so large. You didn't have to care too much about your costs and bottom line. But as we go through and you see the change of investors and consumer behavior and the global economy direction, more and more the margin are eroding, and bankers are obliged to look at cost and put themselves in the same shoes the manufacturing industry was 20 or 30 years ago, right? Or can I be relevant? Where can I bring the most value? Or can I manage better my bottom line? And therefore, looking at the same processes and approach than the manufacturing industry.
Absolutely. So right now, when you look at yourself, and of course you're looking at the the bottom line and the top line and all of those things, but where do you see yourself in the system that you're in adding the most value, Philippe?
Well, my value, I think I changed approach and where I was spending my time as I evolved to more senior jobs. When I started in the banking industry, I was working mostly on process by process, trying to be linear and more automated and looking at really the engineering side of it. And then as I move up the ladder, I was more and more looking at global framework and how I could better organize at the wider company level so that people would better collaborate and be aligned in delivering the output and service to the client. And nowadays, as I'm leading diverse team with reporting to me and leading their own shops, I'm concentrating most on the human capital and developing people.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned diversity. Tell me a little bit about, what challenges you see with diversity and what challenges you see with inclusion, and what would your counsel be for other leaders on perhaps what they can do better in that space?
Yeah, I believe banking is probably an industry or a zone where we have a lot of legacy, being like paid male and old men at the top, and it's hard to change.
Not at all. Yes.
Not at all, right?
Not at all.
It's not the only one, by the way, but there's still a long way to go, I believe. And there are plenty of opportunities. The banking are consolidating and going global. We need obviously to adapt to the new client segment and the client in very different countries with different culture, but as well the workforce is being more diverse, and for them to contributing the most to the company and adding value, we need to understand these differences and to be as inclusive as possible. As well, we know the men-woman balance is not right. As you go up the different layers in a bank or any organization, you find fewer women, and really we are cutting themselves from half of the potential of the population as we see that.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about young women, I think you have 3 children. Am I right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So how old are they, your children?
My oldest is 28, and then I've split, and my 2 last are respectively 10 and 8.
10 and 8. Wow. So you've got definitely 2 different generations in your children.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your 28-year-old. Does she understand what her dad does?
She does, but I think she brings, as a whole generation, a lot of change on what we did as the previous generation and thinking differently. And this whole word about ESG and values, and among our friends, I think half of them switched to be vegan or not eating meats when they meet, because she was educated on different countries. She has friends in various countries, but when they meet, they have to be able to reach by train because a number of them don't take the plane. So you see that in terms of behavior and expectation, they are really challenging what we take for granted. And it's really a generation shift.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a very tough question with permission. May I ask a very tough question for you?
May I not respond? No, I'm kidding.
You can't respond. No, you can't respond. No. So here's the tough question. So your daughter, who's 28, and my daughter, who's 18, get together, and they are your coach, and they're asking you a really tough coaching question. What's the coaching question that those girls would ask you, the 2 young girls?
Coaching question.
Yeah.
Yeah. That can be very diverse. I think what my daughter come often with is, what should I do? What type of job should I have for myself and contribute? And I think they are, in a way, balanced between contradictory willingness. So I think this generation, they want quality of life before welfare or before positions. But at the same time, the one in the Western Europe, they were educating, having an easy life, right? Let's
talk about your 28-year-old daughter and my 18-year-old daughter. If you were selling financial services as a wonderful career for these girls, what would you be telling them?
Well, it's a hard sell, right? The new generation, they consider banking more as a boring place. There are plenty of fintech and regtech and ESG type of job nowadays, and a number of them are even doing arbitration between traditional careers to work for NGOs and jobs who can fulfill their values. But I think the banking is overlooked in the diversity of job it can bring, and as well as a necessary, in a way, blood to the global economy. It's a function that are really necessary to provide financing to households and to the economy, to the investors. Our job is actually, we are safe, right? We are safekeeping the savings of the middle class. That's our jobs. And so we have to be there to guarantee their savings and the return on their investment. So in a way, we participate to the welfare of the whole society. So there are plenty of jobs inside.
Absolutely. And I love what you're saying here, because that's giving me the goosebumps, the chair de poule, because it is a really purposeful industry. And I'm not sure that as an industry, we do the best in terms of its branding. So I'm going to move on a little bit and, tell me a little bit about what you think you stand for as a leader, Philippe. If you were to do your own, what is it that you stand for as a leader?
So I think I'm driven by values as well, and that's human-centric value. So I'm standing for diversity and inclusion. I really believe it bring or can unlock most of the value we have trapped in any company. And inside that, what I'm trying to do is unlocking the potential of everybody so that we can grow talent and they can contribute to the company and grow themselves. I think that's where I can bring most of the value, is raising the human capital. That is really in the end, when you strip everything else, in the end, that's the core capital of any company.
Absolutely. And so you talked about your values, D&I being one of those really important values. What else would you say are, two other values that you hold really dear?
Yeah, I think having a growth mindset was behind me all the time and all my career. I realized when I was graduated, starting in the job market with them, being an engineer, very square mind, mastering a number of complexity and technical stuff. I believe I knew everything and everything I wanted or needed to know to progress in life and career. But actually, I failed several times, and I learned the hard way that human relation is a big part of success, because you need to onboard people and larger team to contribute. And actually, if you look at human history, some say that humans are dominating the world, not because they are have a superior intelligence, nor because they have ants, because other animals have ants, but it's because that's the capacity of human to collaborate at large scale that makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the systems that we create, isn't it, that make the difference. And so, Philippe, when you're not being a fantastic father or being a great leader in the financial industry, what is it that you love to do outside of the office?
I love doing sports. I think it's a great way to release the stress can accumulate being on the job. It's a kind of balance, and it helps me thinking. I'm the type of person who is better at thinking standing rather than sitting, and even moving rather than standing. So I'm kind of running a lot, or practice cycling or any other type of sport, and it helps me freeing up my mind and creativity.
Absolutely. And so what can financial services learn from the art of running and that sport?
Yeah, listen, I was doing marathon for a large part of my life, and actually it's a discipline that is changing you, because you need to practice pretty the whole year. You need to change your diet, the way you sleep. you need to stop on alcohol, for instance. And you need to learn, resiliency, overcome, weaknesses and being hurt. And so I think it's teaching a lot in regards to grow mindset and resiliency. And you need that as well on the job, because the job market is becoming more and more demanding, and you need to constantly adapt to new things. Right? So I think there are a number of behavior or mindset or value from the sport you can apply to the job.
Thank you so much, Philippe Renard. You have brought such a growth mindset to Flex in the City today. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
My great pleasure, Rachel. Have a good day.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Flex in the City. We hope you enjoyed our inspiring conversation with Philippe Renard and left with fresh ideas to fuel your journey. Don't miss out. Subscribe to your favourite platform. And if you loved what you heard, drop us a review to let us know. Stay tuned for more exciting and thought-provoking episodes of Flex in the City.